Welcome, one and all. My name is Sanjay Jenkins. I'm part of the growth team over at Replo, and we have got quite the event for you today, Brand Innovation Unleashed. I'm joined today by Nate Champion of VaynerCommerce and Ashvin Melwani of Obvi. And these two gentlemen are going to be breaking down all of the secrets, all of the sauce that helps high growth brands become high growth. We're going to go deep on customer lifetime value. We're going to talk about data platforms, how to actionize data, and so much more. This is an event that we at Replo are putting on with Triple Whale. Really excited to have that team a part of this as well. So what I'm going to do really quickly is I'm going to give you a quick overview of who we are at Replo, give you an overview of who Triple Whale is, if you're not familiar. And then we'll go into the event, give you an introduction. We'll let these guys introduce themselves in just a second. But to give you a sense of who we are, Replo is an e-commerce platform designed to supercharge Shopify stores. So we help you build the e-commerce store of your dreams, the theme, the landing pages, etc. Ultra customizable landing pages. You can build campaigns a lot faster. You can free up your developers to work on bigger projects. That's what we do. We empower your teams to grow faster by building Shopify visually instead of it with code. And the Triple Whale team. Triple Whale is a source of truth for your data that helps make better decisions. From integrations with your most important platforms, such as your Facebook ads, Google ads, etc., to e-commerce training AI, Triple Whale helps you find the exact data points you need with customization and personalization to fit your business. We are so grateful to have Triple Whale as a part of this, and very grateful for Nate and Ashwin to take time out of their busy schedules to come jam with us today. I'm going to turn it over to Nate for a quick intro, and then into Ash afterwards, and then we'll dive right in.
Cool. Thank you, Sanjay. My name is Nate. I'm the co-president and chief growth officer of VaynerCommerce. We are a one-stop growth marketing shop. So the vast majority of us at VaynerCommerce come from the brand side. Traditionally, brand side people like myself historically, maybe you hate agencies, nobody loves their agency. So we built an agency that is the same way we would structure a growth team on the brand side. So we pretty much do anything growth marketing related. Before VaynerCommerce, I was in economic consulting for a while, doing really hardcore, dorky data stuff. And then I was the first hire of Freshly back in 2015, which was a healthy prepared meal startup that grew from like 2 million to 500 million. It was a crazy experience. And that is really where I learned all things D2C. I think if you want to have the hardest possible business to grow and scale D2C, work in food tech where the margins are extremely low and is extremely competitive, you need insanely low CAC, insanely high retention. And then, ended up VaynerCommerce 3 years ago. So that's me in a nutshell.
Awesome. Well, my name is Ashvin Melwani, CMO and co-founder of a health and wellness brand called Obvi. Our primary focus is making collagen fun again. Just launched in Walmart nationwide, so just been prepping for that and dealing with the nuances of that. It's something that's totally new to us. Almost complete opposite to Nate. We actually started as a agency. So we were a boutique agency running paid media, building websites, landing pages, ads, et cetera. And then kind of went into the brand side, learning from how to build, 7 to 8 figure brands through the agency and figured, hey, why don't we do this for ourselves, right? So started Obvi 2019, grew pretty quickly. Now, like I said, Walmart nationwide and focusing on the D2C and seeing what life has in store for us for next year.
Incredible. Again, thank you guys both for taking time out of your schedules to jam with us and to share your secrets with the people. The goal for today, we're going to talk about engaging customers, increasing conversion rates, understanding customer lifetime value, and then learning how to use that data to actually improve it. So to get started, I'd love to hear, and Ash, we'll start with you. You've got a pretty competitive market, pretty saturated market as well. Like, how did you, when you were first building your brand, how did you differentiate yourself in the category, in the health and wellness space?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing here was, like I mentioned, we were an agency before, right? And one of the last clients we were working on was in sports nutrition, right? So whey protein, pre-workout, BCAAs, and there was a trend happening of really cool flavors coming out. Not just your standard chocolate, vanilla, whatever it was, but brands like Ghost were doing flavor collaborations with like Oreo and uh, some of the other ones, like they did like Jolly Ranchers and Airheads, right? So we're like, how do we start our own brand that's not as competitive as sports nutrition was, but maybe look at the beauty side. Let's look at collagen protein, right? What can we bring the same ideology from sports nutrition over into beauty? Because the whole market for collagen was unflavored, right? You go to like a Walmart, you go to a vitamin shop, the entire wall is full of unflavored collagen, right? And for something that boasts youthfulness and anti-aging is coming across on the shelves as lackluster and boring, right? Like, why would you want to take this? So, how do we make this fun again? I think one of the biggest pieces of research we did was looking at the top products like a Vital Proteins, right, and kind of scanning their 1-star reviews on Amazon and seeing what the problem is with their protein, right? And the biggest thing is like, oh, it's unflavored, but it's not truly unflavored. If you mix it in water, it's very bitter. It's not the greatest thing. You're literally gonna hold your nose and chug it, right? And we don't want that experience for people. We want people to take this because the science says by mid 20s your body produces less collagen, right? Which is why you start to see a little bit of wrinkles, your hair starting to thin out, brittle nails, et cetera, et cetera. So something that you should be taking should be enjoyable to take. And so how do we do that? With better flavoring, right? So instead of having to mix an unflavored scoop of collagen in your smoothie, you got to peel banana, the orange, this and that, toss it into a shit blender, then clean up, it's a mess, this and that. Like, it just doesn't sound great, right? And there are people that do it, and great for you. I don't know about you, but I hate like waking up early and make breakfast. So like, I would love to just take a scoop, put it in a water bottle, shake it up, and get out of there, right? So how do we differentiate ourselves? It was the biggest thing, which was the flavor system, right? How do we make this fun again? The packaging stood out on the shelves. It stands out when you're scrolling through social. Since majority of our marketing is on paid, we want to make sure that it's bright, it's in your face, and the minute you scroll past, you're like, wait, let me go back and see what that is, right? So packaging was 100% the main focus there. Then it became flavoring, right? Flavor is probably one of the biggest things that will drive retention because if you love taking it, you're going to come back and buy more, right? So working on flavor was the number one thing. We went back and forth with our manufacturer for like months trying to perfect this formula. And collagen, I think now we understand the reason why collagen market is super unflavored because it's a very hard ingredient to mask. And so that's why we went back and forth. This was like during COVID, so we couldn't really or like right at the beginning of COVID where we couldn't really go to the manufacturer. So it was like they had to ship it overnight and we had to give feedback and they'd ship over more overnight and we give feedback. So how do we differentiate ourselves? Packaging, flavor, and then the last thing was formula, right? So now if you if you're kind of like a health nut and you kind of understand the benefits of collagen, if you take a Vital Proteins and you take Obvi, right? Vital Proteins has collagen, we have collagen, right? They have hyaluronic acid, we have hyaluronic acid. But what else can we add in there to make sure that we are the ones that you pick up off the shelf or buy online? So we started adding some of these key ingredients like biotin, vitamin C, keratin, amino acids, so that when you're up against the big dogs, your formula is better, your packaging is better, and your flavor is better, and that's the only way you can really succeed in this like market of just, especially in supplements. So that was probably the biggest thing those are the three things that we focused on to differentiate ourselves in a saturated market.
And it's so cool because a lot of people think, or I don't know if it's a lot, but I know several people think that, starting a supplement brand of any kind, you find a contract manufacturer, you get a formula off the shelf, and you all went completely opposite. You were like, no, we're going to make the formula a core pillar of what makes us different. It's not just packaging. It's not just the marketing, sophistication, which you all are very, very sophisticated in marketing, which I love. So thank you for sharing that. Nate, I'm actually going to flip over to you and ask, so Ash just told us how, he, for his own brand, was able to go through, a checklist of things to differentiate, his brand. How do you approach your clients and either help them differentiate themselves in the market, or do you have a framework that you kind of share with everybody? Like, what are your thought processes there?
I think it is highly dependent on the brand. Like, we work with supplement brands, and they differentiate in different ways than Obvi does. Like, ProMix Nutrition is one of our clients. We've been working with them for a long time. They're a badass team. They're more like simple ingredients. They have kind of an influencer, Devin Levesque, who's a co-founder, who's very ingrained in the health and wellness space and kind of like represents that. They have athletes who are using the products and posting about it and doing things like that. So I think it's very dependent on the brand at the end of the day, but it all comes down to the same basic stuff. Like, I think in general, growth is like a simple, not easy thing. And the stuff that Ash is talking about is like, come up with something compelling, have an amazing product, I think is first and foremost like the thing that you need, have strong margins, and then do all the same stuff that everyone should be doing. Have a very strong foundation, drive traffic to your site, get people to buy, get people to come back and buy again. It's pretty simple. But how you kind of like bring that to life is where everything kind of, all the magic happens, I guess.
Sure. Simple, not easy, as you said. Do your clients, do they take a lot of feedback from you in terms of like iterating on the product?
I think it depends. I mean, Ash, you probably felt this in the agency days. Like, there are some clients that are like, do whatever you want from a creative perspective, from a messaging perspective, just whatever works, we're cool with. This is true on the brand side as well. Like, within internally brands, even at Freshly when I was there were times when it was do anything, and there were times when it was like going through, the brand, what is on brand, what is off brand. So it depends on the client. Ultimately, it's about like finding what is that right balance for the client. What are they comfortable with? Product formulation stuff, not as much, but like it's more, I mentioned this earlier, like I think any good growth marketing team understands how it all works together. Like, you have to. If you're doing acquisition, you have to understand the retention stuff. You have to understand the role that creative plays in all this stuff, and messaging and data. And so like, if we're seeing in product repeat rates that a particular product or flavor is performing horribly, and then we're checking the reviews and we're seeing that is a constant theme, like, yeah, we are certainly bringing that up, and then maybe we're pushing other products on the acquisition side and kind of avoiding those while those get solved. So yeah, long story short, I think it depends. But yes, we're ultimately just trying to win. And so whatever data we have to say like, hey, we need to do this to win, we work with clients on that.
Nice. And then Ash, on your side, you have the ability, I mean, you're getting this feedback. Can you walk us through, and then iterating the product, can you walk us through all the different touch points that you guys have on where you're getting feedback and how you're using it to like make the product better?
Yeah, absolutely. So another key differential about Obvi is, one, we are a higher price point in a very commoditized category, right? You can go to Amazon, you can go to Whole Foods or Walmart, whatever it is, and get a collagen for like less than $20, right? Why are you buying into Obvi? One is obviously flavoring, formula, but the main crux of it is community, right? So we have a Facebook group which has over 70,000 members, I think over 72 now, where we funnel a lot of our customers into right after they purchase, right? And even before they purchase. And so that has always been something that we wanted to start from the beginning, where we could talk to people, where we could kind of get an idea of what they're actually facing, what problems they're facing, so that we can address them by helping them with our products or just support through, the community admins and things like that. So right off the bat, that became our main source of feedback, right? The minute somebody buys something, hey, I just placed my order, super excited. Order comes in, hey, I just got my order, super excited to try it, right? They're literally updating us on their journey. Then the third post that comes in is either I fucking love this, sorry, excuse my language, but I love this product, it's great, or I wasn't too sure about it, right? Now, if you don't have access to that in real time, what ends up happening is, say I buy something, there's no community, I don't have a place to give feedback, I try something, I don't like it, right? It's gonna sit in the shelf for a bit. Now, if you have a community, and somebody comes in and goes, hey, I know a lot of you guys really like this product, I tried it in this and I didn't like it, any advice, right? Then you have hundreds of people going in and be like, hey, did you try it in this? Did you try it with this recipe? Did you try this, whatever it is? And then boom, they find something that they like. And that customer that was about to put that bottle back on the shelf for God knows how long is now an avid user of the product. And now they're returning month over month, or they're trying different flavors or whatever it is. So the biggest place for feedback for us has always been our community, because it's live, real time. Literally, I just tried it, I loved it, I hate it, whatever it is, we can address it right there and then. So that's one thing. Two, if there was a product, and there's a short story to this, was this is one of our third products that we brought out, and it was a superfoods formula. And one of the superfoods is cayenne pepper, right? And so when we were tasting it, it's very hard to mask this flavor again, right? It's spicy, it kind of gets in your throat. But I think because the founding team were three South Asian males, right? We're very prone to being okay with some sort of spice, right? We didn't really feel it. We produced it and we sold it, and the first batch of like shipments went out, and we started getting these comments in the community like, hey, like, this is really spicy, I don't know if I could like take this, it's like getting caught in my throat, da da da. And it was like, shit, like we really messed this up, like people aren't gonna like it, they're not gonna take it. And so before the next round was produced, we made sure to get that feedback from everybody saying like, what did you really feel about it, right? And people would give the suggestions like, hey, it's that cayenne pepper, it's that black pepper that's kind of getting stuck here. No matter what I put in it, it's spicy. So literally went back to the drawing board, adjusted the formula, adjusted the flavor, and put out something that was a little bit better, right? So now, because of that real time, like live feedback, we're able to move quicker than most brands, right? Most brands, probably the only way that they're getting feedback is probably when they send out a review request 30 days later, right? And so it's very delayed when it comes down to getting that feedback. We're getting it the day of that they try the product for the first time. And I think that's like super invaluable, because one, it saved us money on producing another round that we weren't even entirely sure was perfect, but we were able to perfect that formula right there and then. So the community is such a big crux to feedback for current products, and almost like a wish list for what they want next. So that's pretty much where we lead into for customer feedback.
That's awesome. That community, and I'm actually in the community. I very early on when y'all were first, hitting the scene, I was like, okay, how engaged can this community be? And I'm so surprised because people post their shaker and these recipes, and it is really cool to see, and being able to have that consistent feedback all the time is amazing. As a South Asian male, I can definitely like see how you would just, breeze past the peppery bit. Yeah, it's pretty funny, man. So you've got the community, and Nate also talked about some, like using data to like kind of like make informed decision. Walk us through the specific like data that you're looking at. Obviously, Triple Whale is a sponsor. I know you're using Triple Whale. We can talk about how you're using Triple Whale as well. But like, walk us through the data piece. You've got the qualitative data on the community side. What's the quantitative side of this?
Yeah, quantitative side is quite literally looking at LTV cohorts by customer segment, right? So we have multiple categories for the brand now. It's weight loss, it's anti-aging, it's immunity, it's hormonal balance. And we look at LTV figures across those categories, right? Weight loss in general has typically a lower LTV, because people are kind of expecting like a magic pill to, help them lose weight. The anti-aging LTV, this is where it coincides with how good the product is / formula / taste, right? So when we first started, the initial feedback for our products, especially the collagen, was it's too sweet, right? And so yeah, like there's gonna be comments that come out and say like, oh, it's too sweet or whatever it is, it's not sweet enough, but the majority was saying it's too sweet, right? And the way that we fixed that was, well, you can either add a little bit more liquid into it so that it kind of balances out the taste, or use like half a scoop, right? The problem with that is if you use half a scoop, it takes twice as long for them to finish the product, right? So when we're analyzing LTV over time frames where you see these products that aren't like optimized yet, you make those optimizations because one, you get the qualitative data to say like, hey, yeah, people are saying it's too sweet, but then you actually look at the quantifiable data and say like, okay, LTV is taking a while to kind of catch up, right? Like people aren't buying every 30 days, they're buying every 60 days, right? So being able to look at this data and match up the qualitative with the quantitative, that kind of says, okay, cool, we got to go back to the drawing board and fix the formula and fix the taste, right? So that's how we kind of handle that. And then something that Nate mentioned is like kind of marketing with other products at maybe even the top of the funnel, right? So our collagen being our flagship product has a higher CAC but a higher LTV, right? Higher CAC because it's a very competitive product, it's a high price point, higher CAC, but higher LTV. The minute somebody tries it, they love it. Now, when you look at weight loss, much lower CAC because it's easier to convert somebody on something, but lower LTV, right? So that's a product that I have to make sure that I'm first order profitable on because there's a low chance that they're going to come back. Whereas the collagen, I can be okay with breaking even or slightly losing because I know I have a higher LTV, right? So monitoring these stats across all the segments of your products, not all collectively as one, because each one has its own differences, as I just mentioned. So looking at those things and playing into those products that have high LTV, maybe, and seeing if those are the products that you can move to your top of the funnel for advertising. Just understanding what those numbers look at, so you can figure out what your CAC targets may be based off of that.
So if we were to like go back, I mean, we're gonna dive a little bit deeper on everything you just said, and I think knowing like what products you're acquiring against, that's super key. I hope people watching and taking notes there. But I want to go back a little further and go back towards like the beginning of the business when you didn't have the data for sure. Or your first, it's the first few iterations, the first, 4, 5, 6, 7 months of being in business. How are you setting these targets? Like, how are you measuring LTV? How's your understanding of what LTV is evolved since that like beginning time?
Yeah, I think always since the beginning, has always been we are going to be, or ideally we're going to be a high retention product, right? So when we were acquiring customers in the beginning, it was like, can we be break even at the absolute minimum or make a few dollars on top, right? And to really track LTV, it is very, very difficult because I think the first stage of cohorts that you really should look at is like that 3-month stage, see where they're at. The problem here is that as a new brand, you're not necessarily ordering enough inventory to last you 3 months. Like, we had enough inventory to last us the first 2 weeks. That was our first PO, right? And so like, how do you go in blindly and say, okay, well, this is the product, I'm going to stick with it for 3 months and then make changes after understanding the LTV is really tough, right? And again, because you don't have the actual quantitative data to really rely on, that's where the qualitative really is super important. And that's why it was a very key element to the beginning of the brand to start the community so that we can get the feedback right away and anticipate what the LTV might look like. Then when you start getting, a little bit more comfortable with making orders and you find that, okay, you have somewhat of a business that can start to sustain itself, that's when we start looking at, that 3-month, that 6-month, and then ultimately that 12-month. I feel like LTV and Nate, maybe, correct me if you feel differently, but I feel like anything past 12 months is like, you have to set a limit as to what the LTV you're actually looking at. Otherwise, it's like, it could be 2, it could be 3, it could be 5 years. Like, it doesn't, like, you never know what's actually going to happen. So like the shorter time frame, I would probably make decisions based on that. So like maybe a 3-month, maybe a 6-month, maybe a 12-month. But anything after that is very difficult because like trends change, things change, and you want to maintain something on a shorter time frame. But I don't know, Nate. I don't know if you agree with that or maybe disagree.
No, I agree, and I think in the early days, and I think a lot of brands even like beyond the early days don't do the stuff that you guys are doing, where it's like before you have all these targets, you don't know what the hell's going on. Like, let's maximize as much as possible the non-paid stuff. Like, let's just like make the site as dialed as humanly possible. Let's get conversion rate optimized. Let's make sure we're capturing as many leads as humanly possible, testing our pop-ups, email, SMS, testing our flows after the fact, getting friend referral up, getting affiliate up in like low cost channels like that, SEO, content, whatever. Like, let's like raise the floor that we have. And then when we're starting to layer on the paid stuff, you can get away with a little bit more, and you can get some more learnings faster, versus like being fully reliant on paid media from day one and not really having like a strong foundation. That's the first thing I thought of. And then, yeah, on LTV, I think it depends on the business. So like Freshly was a weekly subscription. So like I knew 1 week in, like whether or not this cohort was going to be good or bad for the most part. At times you'd run like recurring discounts and I kind of had to wait till like week 2 or week 3. But I'd say for most products, yeah, it's like day like 60 is like the earliest where I can go like, okay, this cohort's gonna be like good or bad or better or worse than previous ones. So yeah, generally speaking, yes, I agree with everything you're saying. The other thing I kind of thought of was like, you might have CAC targets, you might have LTV targets, but like you guys run subscription, right? Yeah, so like, I mean, I'm sure you see like your subscribers, the LTV of subscribers, like infinitely higher than the
Way
LTV
better. Yeah.
one time. Yeah, so that's another thing that we focus on a lot with businesses like that is like, okay, now my goal becomes how do I acquire more subscribers on that first purchase? And a lot of that is like testing on Replo or testing my PDP, testing the design, testing the offer in that subscription, the savings, am I giving you free products or whatever? So that's another way to like really change that formula. And then I can pay way more for that customer because I know my LTV is way higher.
Ash, at any point, did you test driving, as far as like LTV goes, you test first purchase being a subscription versus first purchase being single purchase and then upselling into a subscription on the back end?
Yeah, I mean, so for all of our products that we run at top of the funnel, we have specific landing pages, right? So one of the crucial elements of that is your offering, right? Which we're always testing. So when I say offering, it's quite literally like, what's the deal here? How are you positioning the products? Whether it's like your single one-time buy, subscription, bundle, whatever it is, right? We've tested, which I believe is like the Athletic Greens model, which is like subscription or the one-time purchase, the one-time purchase, subscription, or like the double subscription, right? And tested it. A lot of people still fell into like that 1 month, like I'm just gonna try it and see. That's one thing. Two, we've tried like, okay, making the subscription extremely valuable, like free gifts, discount, free shipping, or you get the one time, which is like no discount, no nothing. You have to pay for shipping, like really awful. It kind of hurt conversion rate and it hurt CAC. So we're like, okay, on our landing pages, we're just going one time purchase, and can I sell more than one, right? Can I? And our main offer is like you either buy a 1 month supply, a 3 month supply, or a 6 month supply, right? And we do price anchoring, so we show 6 month first at a high discount, 3 month next at a less of a discount, and then 1 month at no discount, right? And that has driven more 3 month and 6 month bottle purchases, so that I'm kind of pulling revenue forward, but it's allowed me to scale ad spend because I've upped our AOV and I'm falling into where my CAC is profitable on the first order, right? Now, what I'm seeing is when I do drive up ad spend and I am spending a ton, there's that halo effect of people that come into the website, they end up going to the product page, not the landing page, and they go to the product page. And our product page is optimized for subscription purchases. So if you go to it now, it's already kind of pre-checked on auto ship. You have the benefits of it's 15% off, you qualify for free shipping, you get a free gift with it. The minute you toggle to one-time purchase, all those value props disappear. So you're like, oh, I'm kind of incentivized to like get on a subscription. Now our cart is also optimized for this, where if you add a one-time purchase to our cart, on top of the cart there's a toggle that says instantly save 15% by switching it to auto ship. So you click that and it turns it to a subscription. So we've done all these things where on the front end, if you're coming in from like Googling the brand, and that kind of means that you took a little bit more time to explore, do some research, you're kind of a little bit more like, okay, cool, I'm gonna go for this product. The subscription is a little bit more appealing to you then than it was when you first clicked on the ad for the first time, went to the landing page for the first time, and you're not entirely sure about the product. So I'm treating it separately now. Whatever comes in through like organically, that's what's been growing the subscription on the first time basis. But to your point, it's the secondary purchase or the third purchase that people come in, and those are where they kind of take advantage of the subscriptions because of the discount, and you get free shipping with everything, as well as free gifts if you like stay on for your 3rd month or your 6th month. We've added some really cool milestones so that we've retained users over time.
What data do you guys look at when you're first like, okay, you're like, okay, let's first analyze LTV, where we're at, and then trying to make decisions off that. Like, what are the few key metrics that you're looking at when you do this? Where are you typically going to get these metrics as well?
Yeah, so in terms of subscription, right?
Subscription and just LTV and broadly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the biggest places have been triple whale, right? And kind of like within the cohort analysis, you're able to kind of segment out like, okay, this person was tagged with this order. I think a lot of this is like if you haven't set up order tags on in your Shopify, like that's probably one of the biggest things to do right now. And I think you might be able to do this if you're on Plus with Flow, but literally tagging all your orders. So this person was a first time customer, they also got a subscription, or this was a returning order. This was a one-time purchase or subscription, whatever it was. Being able to have those tags, that's where you can kind of utilize these tools a little bit more efficiently, because then you can actually get the right segment and analyze the data accordingly. So, for example, like if somebody's a first-time buyer, being able to segment those out into one-time purchases versus subscriptions, that is like crucial to understand the LTV on both ends, right? And to Nate's point, like those people that are the first-time buyers and their subscribers have an infinitely higher LTV than the one-time the first time's one-time purchase buyer. So that's been such a key like report that we look at on more of a monthly basis. And that's just through through Triple Whale, and they make it super easy to like segment out. And so yeah, hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Nate, what about you? When you're looking at data, like what are the big things that you're looking at, and how are you putting it all together? I know you come from a data background.
Yeah, I think the first thing, so we like audit every brand that we would even potentially work with for free, because it serves us as much as it serves brands. It's like, where can we help? Sometimes it's like, dude, I can't even help. Like we audited a brand, $100 million brand a couple weeks ago, looked at everything, we're like, you're dialed. Like maybe you need some creative. But we basically build like a growth model that is like simple stuff. Month by month, what's my spend? What's my revenue? How many new customers did I get? How many repeat customers did I get? Break that down a little more. How many one-time, how many subs for both news and repeats? What's my opt-in rate for subscription on news? What's my percentage of repeat revenue month over month? What's my spend as a percentage of my total revenue? And then we get into the channels, and I'm looking at how much am I spending by channel? What's my new customer acquisition cost? If we're doing any like win-back marketing, how much am I spending? What's my repeat acquisition, my win-back cost, whatever you want to call it. And just trying to identify like basically where are all my orders coming from, and breaking down new versus repeat, and like benchmark wise, like what looks like we're missing the boat. Like, is email driving enough volume that I think this like can go up a little more? Are we doing a good job? Are we doing a bad job? Are there any channels we're not on that we should be testing? So that kind of like relatively simple, I think, analysis just gives you like a vibe of business. Month over month, you can see seasonality, you can see what's going on, see how efficient the business is. And then when you're thinking about like, okay, how do I increase retention? Then it's like getting in the weeds of like the cohort waterfalls, breaking down by like the first product you purchased, the first channel you came in on, or the offer you came in on, and doing stuff like that. So yeah, like really whatever tool will allow you to easily get to that stuff. Like Shopify, you can pull a decent amount of that stuff. GA4 is kind of whack. I mean, GA is like whack for new versus repeat type stuff. GA4 is driving nuts on a number of things. But yeah, there's a ton of ways. Like back in the day at Freshly, we were on WooCommerce when I first started, and I had to write like a custom SQL to automate all this stuff. But the quicker you can get to all these things, where I can just look at it every single day, the better you are, because like I don't spend as much time figuring out what's going on. I know what's going on, and then I can spend time figuring out like, okay, what do we do? What offer do we test? What channel do we test? Whatever.
And when brands are doing this for the first time, I'm sure there's a lot of brands that have grown quite large and they've never done this. I'm kind of curious. How often do you encounter big brands, let's call it like maybe over 5 million or 10 million? Maybe that's not so big, but like they've never done this. They've never looked at their LTV cohorts. That pretty often, you said?
Very often, yes.
Yeah. And so like that's it's almost like a different way of thinking about business in general. What's like the first? Actually, what are the common mistakes that those brands are usually making? Like obviously, just like not looking at it is a pretty big thing. But is there any commonality among these brands that are like, yo, if you fix this, everything works or makes more sense?
I don't know that it's like a common theme, other than it's usually like there's a lot of low-hanging fruit, because there is not just like a rigorous kind of simple approach to managing growth, whether it be just like establishing KPIs and just banging your head against the wall trying to move those numbers every single day. Usually it's just like a lack of discipline on that side. And then it's like, okay, cool, let's just like simplify this. And then you start uncovering opportunities, whether it's like we're not testing the website and conversion rate optimization, and our homepage converts like crap, or like this specific channel converts absolutely terribly, or a lot of like email, SMS is just like not driving a significant amount of volume, and it should be. I don't know. There's a million things, but yeah, I think it's just like when I see that, I'm just like, okay, great. Like there's going to be a lot of stuff to work with here.
How long does it usually take to get people up to speed on these sorts of things? I mean, I guess it depends per client, but is there like an average like time to success?
I think it depends on the client. Like there's a lot of, if they have like a standard Shopify stack with Klaviyo or Sendlane. I know you guys are working Sendlane now, Ash, I think. But if they have like a pretty normal stack that's not like WooCommerce back in the day, Freshly, or like Magento or something, then it's pretty easy to quickly like impact stuff. We can stand up Replo, we can stand up Rebuy, we can stand up a million tools and just like get to work. A couple times there's been like some glaring like, whoa, something's wrong here. Like we had one where it was like email is like, whoa, like abysmally low. And it was like an ESP specific issue. And then we had to move ESPs. And that takes like a couple months, like with the volume that this brand was doing, it was like a couple months just to warm up an IP address and start sending emails out of there. So it can depend. But I would say most of it is like pretty quick, you know, especially if it's like creative or channel specific stuff. Like we can get that stuff cranking really, really fast.
You both mentioned like, okay, like you looking at the data, like let's go back, test things like offers and things like that. Just really quickly, Nate, we'll start with you, and then Ash, I'd love to hear your take on this as well. How do you guys think about constructing offers? Like, what are the specific touch points or value props that you're always trying to convey when you're building an offer?
God, it's a good question. I mean, something that is intriguing and that people want to click on is basically like step number one. I think it's like understanding what have we tested historically. I think a lot of brands is just kind of like straight up like percentage off or dollar off or something like that. Even then, it's probably not really been like tested. And then I think a lot of, Ash, I don't know if you guys do any gift with purchase or anything like that. Like understanding margins and understanding like what I can play with, I think is step one of like, okay, I can do a percentage off, but I can also say like, get this free gift with purchase and maybe it cost me $3. And the perception of that discount is really high. There's cashback stuff that you can do today that's pretty cool, like Fondue. I don't know if you, Ash, you guys have done that. There's a million things. I think like step one is how much offer testing we've actually done, and starting with the basics and then getting a little wacky.
Ash, I know you just dropped a thread the other day about the impact of merch on your business.
Yeah.
I'm sure that ties into the offer building process as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think Nate, you hit on a lot of points and things that we do also, which is like the gift for purchase, the cashback, the bundle discounts, right? I think where people have gone wrong, and we've done this too, like we've made this mistake of like really not understanding your numbers and what an offer really means for the business. People typically think like, okay, how do I make the most valuable offer? It's going to improve my conversion rate. And that's like full stop. That's all I think about, right? You literally have to like, there's a formula to this, right? And it's quite literally like, all right, what are my COGS? What is my cost of shipping to the consumer? What's my processing fees, right? And what's the profit that's left over after everything, right? That profit that's left over is technically the amount that you're allowed to spend to acquire a customer, right? Now, if the goal is to break even, right? So say, you know, if you're now tossing in free gifts to that, you're discounting a little bit too much, your break even is higher, right? So now, for example, probably around 5 months ago, we were running an offer where it was like, this is for our collagen burns, the weight loss, right? So like towards the end of Q1, we were like, okay, Q2 is about to start. We need to improve conversion rate because Q1 is always that new year, new me type of mentality, right? So Q2, how do we maintain conversion rate? So let's make the offer better. So when we were looking at the original deal, it was like, again, like I said, the 6 month, 3 month, and 1 month supply. Each had its own discount, but we added free gifts to that. Okay. We thought by adding free gifts, it's like, oh, we have an abundance of inventory. The gift costs us like a couple bucks, not going to make a difference, whatever it was. I didn't realize that because of that, my CAC target changes, but I was operating as if it didn't, right? And so that's where brands like, or I guess marketers don't consider enough, or maybe this was just a mistake I made. I don't know if other people have made this mistake, but like that was a mistake I made of saying, well, my break even point was I needed to hit a 1.44 new customer ROAS to be break even. By adding those gifts into the mix and making a few changes that we made, my break even point was like a 1.8. So technically, it's actually harder to break even on this deal, even though the deal looked better, right? I had to convert like that. By adding free gifts, did I make my conversion rate go up enough to justify a higher CAC that's or a lower CAC that's needed, right? So we started looking into those numbers and we're like, this all comes down to contribution margin, right? Like, am I positive on my contribution margin after my CAC? Great. But this is where we're like, okay, well, if I remove the gifts, I know my conversion rate is going to drop, but how much, right? And if it drops by X amount and I'm still within my CAC targets, great. My contribution margin is probably positive now just by removing the free gift, right? So those are the things that we think about now is what's our absolute baseline of like, how can I make my break-even point the lowest possible so I can scale, but also offer as much value as possible? Because I can throw in the house and say, hey, I have free gifts with all orders, but I need a 2x return to break even versus breaking even at a 1.44x. What's easier to obtain at scale? It's probably that 1.44x, right? So that's the way that we've started to think about it. But yeah, utilizing all these things like fondue, gift with purchase, all have their place in the customer journey. And so like, fondue I think has been the biggest thing that we've transitioned to on the front end, right? We don't really run like pop-ups on our landing pages just for friction purposes, but on the front end, instead of doing hard discounts off the top, moving to a cashback program has substantially saved the amount of money that we're giving away on discounts by like 85%. So something to look at there for sure.
You guys have any like tips on setting up a program like that? Like just using fondue effectively? It's really quickly.
Yeah, I'll quickly walk you through like, so before we had a pop up, it was 15% off, right? So now for every $10,000 in sales, I'm giving out 1,500, right? And so like that's 1,500 right off the top line, remove completely, right? Now if I do cashback, what ends up happening is that that cashback applies at the end of the purchase, post-purchase, right? So I can actually offer maybe 20% or 25% cashback. What ends up happening is that customer pays full price. The back end, they get an option for a $20 gift card. Say they spend $100, they get $20 cashback. They get a gift card back to the Obvi store, plus maybe a little bit of a bonus, or they can claim a Visa gift card. Or they just do nothing at all, right? And what ends up actually happening is that 50% of the people don't even touch the cashback. 30% actually end up getting a gift card back to the brand, and the remaining 20% take the Visa gift card. So what ended up being $1,500 gone off your top line, it's only that small percent of people that accept the Visa gift card is what's actually coming out of your bottom line. And it's typically 20% of 1,500, 20% of 2,000 is $400, right? So instead of giving up $1,500, I'm only giving up $400. So you're adding back almost a G plus to your bottom line by using cashback and by increasing the value of the offer too.
That's impressive. That's new to me. I will also say a lot of what you just discussed is like so much quality inside baseball. Anybody that's watching this, like, gets some pretty mega stuff. I personally had never thought about how gift with purchase would actually like increase your CAC targets become much harder to hit. Like your break even ROAS increases. That's why we have you guys on here, telling us this stuff. This is like a big lesson for myself.
Just know your numbers. That's all it is. It's really just calculating the numbers and making sure that it all backs out properly.
Ash, like you ran, you were doing agency work before, and then you transitioned to the brand. Is this how much of the learning, like knowing your numbers, for example, like to that level that you just described, how much of that did you have before you started Obvi?
Honestly, like I'm embarrassed to say this, and like it's something that I remind myself of all the time, but literally after the iOS update, it forced me, and I'd like to think it forced a lot of people to become better marketers, to really understand what's actually happening within your business, to really understand the numbers that are coming in, and like I God bless that triple whale came out at the time that it did, because it really allowed us to see what was actually happening, versus like, oh, here's how much I spent on Facebook today, here's how much came in on Shopify, right? That triple whale kind of showed us like, hey, like here's how much you're actually spending to acquire a new customer, here's how much new customer revenue is coming in, here's how much returning revenue is coming in. Then you start optimizing, and then you start diving into all these things, and you're like, wait, like I can't just spend $10,000 and see whatever comes in. Like, am I spending $10,000 to acquire new customers, or is it just kind of contributing to returning revenue too? And so those are the things you start to unlock and discover. And honestly, like I said, it's embarrassing to say, it's like I didn't know my numbers like until I was forced to. And so, double-edged sword, like, yeah, we all wish we could go back in time and Facebook being the way that it was pre-iOS update, but I really do think it was for the better, because it really forced people to sharpen their tools and become better operators.
The good ones will manage to grow no matter what the climate is. I think it's and I will say tools like Triple do make it easier. And just on the topic of smart data, customer data platforms, when is the best time to start using this? Whether it's Triple Whale or anything else, but like, well, when's the best time to start using it? Day one, like out of the gate?
I think so. I think now with Triple Whale's new free plan, like it's a no-brainer, right? The Founders Dash. I think just having the numbers in front of you, like, yeah, Shopify dashboard is great. It doesn't show you everything. I think having the free plan is an absolute must for everybody. It's a no-brainer. It's free. Then you decide, hey, do I want the additional features, whatever it is. That comes with scale in your business. But I do think, like, as an operator, you need some type of dashboard that pulls in everything and can show you everything at a live view, minute to minute, hour to hour, just so that you can make sure that there's nothing broken, or you can make changes when you need to. So yeah, I think right off the bat.
Because like pre-triple whale, you're probably like manually doing everything. Like you understand what those numbers mean. And so I think like even like we can automate every single thing at VCom. And I have the team every Monday, we pull in, we like manually look at stuff, and they're pulling like manual stuff, because it kind of forces you to go, what is actually happening underneath all of this? And then once you like understand how it actually works, I think simplifying and automating is like cool. Like, yeah, you've got it. So I would say like both. But I think if you don't actually understand why those numbers, like what those numbers mean, I think it can also get you in some trouble.
We've got a couple minutes left, and I want to have a little bit of time for Q&A. But before we do that, I want to ask Nate to ask Ash like the most pressing question or the most interesting question that you would have, being in your position at Vayner, to Ash running a brand, like whether it's some sort of inside baseball, like what is interesting to you that you could ask Ash?
I would probably, I don't know if this is weird, but I would ask Ash more about like the weight of founding a company and the stress and the just the craziness of like running a business. So I think like until you do it, you don't respect how hardcore it is and how like intense it is. And so I would probably spend the majority of my time asking about that, because like there's all this stuff that we talk about, and our CAC's great, and this is great, and LTV is great, but I think it's also just like fucking hard. Yeah. So I would probably ask more about that kind of stuff, the fluffy emo stuff.
Ash, what's it like, man?
It's one of those things where like you have to have a strong team, or like a strong founding team. I'm lucky and blessed to say that I have two other partners that have their individual skill sets, where you put all three of us on a brand, and you can get it from 0 to 1, right? Where like I know paid ads, and it's what I've grown up doing in my career. My other partner, is an insane graphic designer and brander, and then the other one is insane finance person and operations, right? So when you put those three together, you can get a business off the ground, right? It's that 1 to 10 where it's like, how do you build a team, right? Like how do you have to think about culture, right? You have to think about all these different things that you didn't necessarily have to before, when you're just thinking about yourself and your two founders, right? So I think on the flip side, the question for Nate would be like, how do you build team? Like, how do you hire the right people, and how do you build culture in an agency where building out a team is crucial to the success of the business, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And I think just as a little anecdote, I tried to hire Ash's co-founder Ron back in the day at Freshly. He said no, and he started the agency with Ash. But I can confirm he's a badass. Yeah, I think it's hugely important, especially in the early days when you're like building it. The wrong hire can really screw up culture. I think in the agency world, like I try to only hire people from the brand side. So the only exception I have is like creative, like badass creative strategists, video editors. I think a lot of that comes from the agency side. Everyone else, I kind of try to hire with extensive brand experience who are like startup grinders who like getting in the weeds, and they like building startups. And so I think like that's like filter number one for me is like, does this person have the like grind startup mentality? Because that's what I think all these brands need. And then you kind of got to get lucky too. Like hiring is just freaking hard. But you got to like live and breathe everything that we're talking about. And then you get the right clients and you get, you focus on the right stuff, and it's fun, you know, but it's challenging, no doubt.
What's the easiest part of your guys' jobs?
I think looking back at everything and being able to talk about it and like learn from it, but then it's like when you're in it and you're like doing the day to day, it's like, fuck, I have no idea what I'm doing sometimes. But the picture is obviously better in the review mirror, right? So, but other than that, man, I think the easiest part is like truly enjoying like the community that we built and just talking to consumers and seeing how we've changed lives, right? There's so many like success stories in the community, and it's like cool when you have those bad days, you're like, shit, like we're doing this for a reason. So yeah, that'd probably be it.
Yeah, same. I would just say the team and kind of having like having fun in what you're working on, and like you know, every day is different. There's gonna be challenges and all that crap, but like if you got the right team around you and you're kind of like going to war together and you're like going through the challenges together, I think just like, again, fluffy stuff. I'm getting fluffy, but like just appreciating everything and trying to be in the present moment and have fun, you know, just
That's
like
awesome. That's awesome. I mean, I think the fluffy stuff is important. It's probably the most important in many respects. So we're actually right at time, and I thank you both from the bottom of my heart for just being so open with us, and you know, again, so much inside baseball today. The great part about this is that this can be up on YouTube next week, so I'll definitely be coming back, watching the recordings, taking more notes. But really, thank you both for taking time out of your busy schedules and just opening up on your careers and telling us kind of the hardcore stuff that you guys build day in and day out. I want to thank Triple Whale again for helping us put this event together. It's been fantastic having them as a co-sponsor and putting this. And again, Founders Dash is free, so go ahead, get that installed. And if you're not using Replo to build landing pages, it's free to get started there as well. So go install it in your stores. Ash, Nate, thank you guys. I hope we get to do this again soon. I hope we get to do this in person next time. You guys are two of my personal heroes, so it's really cool to be able to be a part of this. And thank you all for watching today.